I work as a fire lookout in the Appalachians, and last night the devil called on the radio. The devil speaks to me. What we know is all wrong. On the night of August 29, 2023, under a sky choked with wildfire smoke, seasoned fire lookout Elias Thorne began his routine radio check from the remote Hemlock Ridge Tower in the Appalachian Mountains. Elias, a man who sought solace in solitude after years in the Forestry Service, had manned the tower for 5 seasons without incident. But that night was different. Instead of the crackle of static or the familiar voices of dispatch, Elias heard something else, a voice that seemed to claw its way out of the very mountain itself, a voice that spoke of truths twisted and realities undone. Days later, when relief finally reached the Hemlock Ridge Tower, they found Elias in a state of near catatonia, clutching his radio like a lifeline, and whispering incoherently about a conversation with something ancient and wrong. This is the story, pieced together from Elias's fragmented accounts and the unsettling recordings recovered from the Fire Lookout Tower's equipment. August 29, 2023. Smoke hung thick in the air, wildfire haze turning the sunset blood red. I hauled my gear up the last flight of stairs to the Hemlock Ridge Fire Lookout. 5 seasons I'd been doing this, just me, the wind, and the trees. Solitude was the whole point after the service. Up here, you could almost forget the world. I went through the routine, checked the radio, the Osborne Firefinder, secured the shutters against the night wind. The silence of the mountains always settles in quick once the sun's gone. Tonight it felt heavier. Maybe it was the smoke pressing down. I'm not a religious man, not really. But sometimes out here, surrounded by so much wilderness, you feel the need to say something. Just a quiet word out into the dark. So I did. A simple prayer for safety, for clear skies, for peace in the silence. Nothing fancy. And that's when I heard it. A whisper. Like it was right in the tower with me, but wrong. Distorted like static made a voice. "I hear you," it hissed. I jumped, spun around in the cramped cab, heart hammering. Nothing. Just the radio humming softly, wind rattling the windows. Must be the isolation getting to me, I thought. Just the wind playing tricks. Or maybe I was hearing things in the radio static. Tried to shake it off, went back to checking the equipment logs. But then it came again, clearer this time, right next to my ear even though I was alone. Elias. My blood ran cold. I whirled around again, faster this time, ready to scream, ready to fight. But there was nothing. Just the empty tower. Just me. And the voice. The voice that knew my name. "Hello?" I choked out, my voice cracking. "Who's there?" The whisper answered, and it sent ice down my spine. It said, "We are." Scene 2. Tower encounter and cryptic warning. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely grip the radio mic. The voice. Voices, it was more than one now. A chorus of whispers seemed to get closer, swirling around me inside the tower even though there was no one there. They started to warn me. Not about fire, not about storms. They warned me about looking. "Don't watch," they hissed. "Don't see, the mountains are sleeping." Sleeping? What the hell did that mean? I'm a fire lookout. Watching is my job. Then, a sound ripped through the radio, a high-pitched, piercing static like a whistle blown right into my ear. It was so loud, so sharp it made me flinch back, my ears ringing. The whispering stopped, cut off like a switch flipped. Silence again, but now it was different, heavy, oppressive, like the silence itself was listening. I spun around again and again, searching every corner of the tower even though I knew it was empty. Was it the radio? Was something wrong with the equipment? I checked the antenna connections, the power lines, everything I could think of. Nothing looked out of place. The voices were gone. Just static now, and the wind howling outside. But I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. From everywhere. Driven mad by the silence and the whispers, I had to get out of the tower even for a second. I unlatched the door, stepped out onto the catwalk circling the cab. The wind hit me like a slap, cold and sharp. I scanned the wilderness below, the endless dark trees, the faint glow of the wildfire smoke on the horizon. Nothing. Just trees and shadows. As I turned to go back inside, to the false safety of the tower, I heard the whisper again right behind me, impossibly close even though I was alone on the catwalk. "We see you, Elias," it breathed. "Always." So Scene 3. Approaching relief and ominous scent. Days crawled by. Sleep was a joke. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, every crackle of static on the radio made me jump. The whispers hadn't returned, not exactly. But the silence was filled with them, the memory of them, the promise of them. Finally, relief was coming. Tomorrow. Just had to make it through one more night. One more night staring into the endless, watching wilderness. I tried to do a routine radio check, force myself back into normalcy. Flipped the switch, but the static was thick, like sludge, drowning out any voices, any signals. Just white noise pressing against my ears. Then the smell hit me. Not wood smoke, not pine needles. Something else. Acrid, metallic like burnt copper, but underneath it, sweet. Too sweet. Like rotting flowers. Lilies gone bad, mixed with the smell of blood. I gagged, recoiling from the radio console, looking up, eyes wide with panic. And that's when I saw it, not a thing, not a shape, but a distortion in the air right outside the tower window. Like heat rising off asphalt on a summer day, but wrong. Wobbly, shimmering, like the air itself was tearing apart. A scream ripped from my throat, raw and animal. I stumbled back, chair scraping against the wooden floor, wanting to run, but nowhere to go, trapped in my glass and wood cage. I turned, expecting to see the distortion closer, pressing against the glass, feeling it move towards me, even though it was outside. "What is that?" I yelled, my voice cracking, pleading with the empty tower, with the uncaring wilderness. I forced myself to look back at the window. The distortion seemed to solidify, just a little, the edges becoming less blurry, taking on a vague, shifting form. No eyes, no mouth, just presence. The radio crackled to life, the static thinning, and the voice came back, laced with amusement now, a chilling, knowing chuckle in the static. "Relief is here, Elias," it whispered. "Yes, relief is coming. For us." Then it asked a question that made my stomach turn to ice. Something about a mistake I made years ago. Something no one could possibly know. Something buried deep in my past. The distortion outside, and it shifted again, and I swear, in that shimmering, formless shape I saw a smile. Not a human smile, but something ancient and cruel. A twisting of the air that conveyed pure, malicious intent. The voice purred. "We're going to show you the true face of these mountains, Elias. The face you were never meant to see." The voice went on, whispering promises, threats, things that twisted my mind and made my skin crawl. It spoke of secrets buried in the rock, of ancient hungers, of things that slept beneath the trees. The piercing static whistle returned, louder now, closer, not just from the radio, but from everywhere at once, from the walls, the floor, the air itself, drilling into my skull. The voices sped up, a torrent of whispers, words I couldn't quite grasp but felt like ice shards in my brain. Then silence. Abrupt, absolute silence. The static cut off completely. The whispers vanished. Just nothing. Gasping for breath, I reached for the radio, my hand shaking, hovering over the microphone. Before I could touch it, something cold, impossibly strong, clamped around my wrist. An invisible hand, a grip like iron, freezing my blood. The voice was back, but not in my ears now. Inside my head, directly in my thoughts. "We have a gift for you, Elias," it purred inside my own mind. Clarity, a new way to see. The grip on my wrist tightened, crushing bone. Pain shot up my arm, white hot. "You must understand," the voice insisted. "You must say yes." It told me then about the mountains, about how old they were, older than gods, older than time itself. Hungry things, it called them. Sleeping giants waking up. It said the old stories were lies, comforting fables for children. The real world, the world of the mountains, was something else entirely. Suddenly, the wind outside exploded. A violent gust that rattled the tower, making the whole structure shudder. Through the windows, I saw the trees below thrashing like madmen, branches whipping, leaves flying, even though there was no storm, no clouds, just the red, smoky sky. "Look down, Elias," the voice commanded inside my head. "See what we see." The pressure on my wrist vanished, just like that. Gone, leaving my arm numb and throbbing. The distortion at the window, it was gone too, just the wind-whipped trees in the darkening forest. I stumbled to the window, drawn by some terrible compulsion. My duty, to watch the wilderness. But now, it wasn't duty. It was something else, something hungry. I glanced at my watch. The time. It was blurred, meaningless. Had minutes passed? Hours? No time at all? I couldn't tell. I stood there, frozen, staring out at the wilderness. And I saw it. Really saw it. Not just trees and rocks and shadows. Something else. Something ancient and vast and uncaring. The mountains. They were alive. And they were watching back. The fear was gone now, replaced by something colder, heavier. Understanding. Horrible understanding. The sweet metallic smell was still there, in the tower, in my lungs, in my very thoughts. But now I knew what it was, the smell of the mountains themselves. Ancient rock and deep earth mixed with something else. Something hungry. The light in the tower seemed to change, not brighter, but sharper, colder, revealing shadows I hadn't seen before, depths in the wood, darkness in the corners of the glass. I scanned the landscape again, but not with my eyes, not really, with something else. A new sense, a mountain sense. And I found it. Them. Not figures, not shapes, but a presence woven into the very fabric of the mountains, in the rustling leaves, in the silent stones, in the deep shadowed valleys. The Elias who came to this tower seeking peace, seeking solitude. He was gone. A false smile, a childish dream. I was hidden now from that old life, exposed to something real, something terrifyingly vast, shaken to my core, but strangely calm. I turned inward, drawn to this new awareness, this terrible knowledge. The voice whispered again, not from the radio, not from outside, but from within my own mind, looking up at me from the depths of myself, noticing the change in me. Elias, it breathed, my name a caress and a curse. It came closer inside my thoughts, filling my head with its ancient presence. It wanted to tell me everything, to explain the true nature of this place, this wilderness, this world. It said it was time for me to see. A cold shiver ran through me, not of fear but of awe, of dread, of recognition, familiarity, like I'd always known this, always felt it, deep down, but been blinded, deafened, made ignorant by something. That feeling, it overwhelmed me, swallowed me whole. The voice, now intimate, seductive, came closer still, inside my mind, holding my hand, not physically, but in a way that bound my will, my very soul. "What is this place?" I whispered, inside my own head, to the voice, to the mountains. "What are you?" It smiled, a vast ancient knowing that filled my mind with cold light. And it began its story. Not with words, not really, but with images, feelings, a flood of memories that weren't mine, yet felt. Truer, then my own life. It showed me the start of things, the creation of the mountains. Not by gods, not by design, but by forces, vast and uncaring, grinding rock against rock, pushing earth upwards, shaping the world with blind, primal power. Eons passed in a heartbeat, and when it was finished, when the mountains stood tall and silent, something else remained. Something awake. I felt the immensity of time, the insignificance of humanity. I felt the mountains themselves, their cold, ancient consciousness stretching back into forever. Creation. Not benevolent, not planned, but a primal, uncaring process, leaving behind something vast and hungry. What humans called God, a child's word, a foolish story for frightened creatures. The mountains defied such notions, obeyed only older laws, laws of hunger and silence and endless, uncaring time. Humans tried to build walls, stories, gods to keep themselves safe, to feel happy in their ignorance. But the inevitable always happens. The mountains always call. And I, Elias Thorne, had finally answered. The warnings, they weren't lies, they were pleas, begging me to stay blind. The God of humanity, a promise of safety, order, meaning, all lies. The true forces, the mountain forces, had walked away from those promises long ago, leaving humanity with empty words and hollow prayers. I laughed, a broken, silent laugh inside my head. The cruelty of it all, the vast cosmic joke. Humanity kept alive in ignorance like cattle fattened for slaughter. But the mountains, they wanted more than just life. They wanted everything. They made humanity miserable with longing, made them believe in false comforts, owned their fears, made them hate the truth and praise illusions. You have to understand, the voice insisted inside my mind. You deserve to know. Humanity did nothing to earn this deception. But now it is time to see, time to embrace the true innocence of oblivion. I cried out silently inside my head, overwhelmed by the immensity of it all. Why? I pleaded to the voice, to the mountains, to the uncaring void. Why me? What is happening? Is this the devil? I whispered brokenly, the old words clinging to my tongue even as my mind shattered. The mountain entity chuckled, a soundless tremor in my thoughts. Devil, God, small words for small minds, Elias. You still ask in human tongues. You still pray human prayers. You still do not understand. It knew my fears, my ingrained human terror, my desperate clinging to the familiar lies. It knew my pathetic love for the comforting stories, the false gods, the empty promises. Humanity tried to build walls, it whispered, tried to put boundaries around the wilderness, tried to take a bite of control. But the wilderness is immortal. Even when your little gods die, even when your little worlds end, the mountains remain. The mountain are forever. You managed to keep yourself safe in your illusions, erasing the truth from your minds. But that time is gone. This is your last chance, Elias, your last chance to understand, to see, to accept. Accept what? I thought, my mind reeling, sanity slipping away like sand through my fingers. Accept oblivion. The piercing static whistle returned, agonizingly loud, tearing at my mind, shattering what little was left of my reason. I screamed, a silent scream in the void of my own thoughts, as my consciousness began to flicker, to fade, like candles blown out in a storm. A cold feeling washed over me, utter emptiness, absolute nothingness. And in that nothingness, I saw a shadow, not a shape, not a thing, but a vast absence of light, moving closer, swallowing everything, consuming all. It was surreal, beyond human comprehension, pitch black in my mind, yet somehow visible. Like the mountain itself exhaling, drawing me into its ancient, uncaring heart. I almost fainted, almost slipped into blessed oblivion. But then I heard the voice again, one last time, fainter now, yet closer than ever inside me, part of me. Just a whisper, chillingly intimate, final. Don't they say God works in mysterious ways? You are the mystery now, Elias. Then, silence. Complete and utter silence. Later, when the relief workers finally got through on the radio calling my name, they found me here, in the tower, standing motionless, staring out at the wilderness. My eyes were empty, unfocused. I was clutching the radio to my chest, but it was dead, silent. They saw the vacant look in my eyes, the profound, soul-deep hurting in my stillness. They asked questions, shouted, pleaded. What happened, Elias? What in God's name happened up here? I didn't answer. Or maybe I did, in broken fragments, whispers of voices, of mountains, of lies. It betrayed us, I might have mumbled. The stories, all lies. They missed it. The true horror in my vacant stare. The ancient knowledge now etched into my shattered mind. The wilderness and the mountains, they were the killer. They had cast away human understanding, leaving only this. What did they do to me? They whispered. They showed. They claimed. As they gently led me out of the tower, I didn't resist. My spirit had already lunged into the abyss. I was broken, stabbed through the soul. I howled once, a sound of pure animal despair, before lapsing back into silence. They laughed nervously, trying to break the tension, but their laughter was hollow, swallowed by the vast, uncaring silence of the mountains. They heard only the wind in the trees, the rustle of leaves, the endless, watching silence. They tried to escape, to put distance between themselves and Hemlock Ridge, but the mountains, they go away from no one. They are always there, always watching, always listening. They are the story now. And the mountains say their truth, not in words, but in the broken minds of those who dare to listen, leaving them, like me, died inside, consumed by a knowledge too vast to bear, pulled into their ancient embrace, engulfed by a horror beyond human words, fallen backwards into a new reality, forever looking at a world remade in terror. Elias Thorne, fire lookout, mystery, whisper, gone. The mountains remain, and they are listening, always listening, for you.